From the very beginning, life was a crucible for the author. It forged a spirit of resilience and self-reliance. This spirit would define his journey. At just 6 months old, he was placed with his maternal grandparents, Daniel and Lillian Sloan. This was due to family hardship. He found himself rooted in a household where poverty was a constant presence. Yet, integrity was paramount. Their home was devoid of running water, an indoor toilet, a car, or even a telephone. Nevertheless, it was rich in moral guidance. His grandmother's unwavering declaration became a mantra. "It is no disgrace to be poor," she would say, "but it is a sin to be dirty." This was a testament to character that transcended material wealth. His grandfather, Daniel Sloan, was a man of quiet intelligence. He had an Irish Catholic heritage. He instilled a nuanced, anti-English sentiment. This sentiment was born from personal experience with religious persecution. Alongside this, he held a profound commitment to tolerance for all creeds and races. This worldview was shaped by his grandfather's measured wisdom. Daniel was a man who never showed anger. He adhered to a strict regimen of 2 sips of whiskey in the morning and 2 at night. This became the author's own philosophy. His grandmother, Lillian, was a formidable woman with blue eyes and brown hair. She was a master of self-sufficiency. With her prized Long Tom 16-gauge shotgun, she hunted quail and pheasant. She fished for supper. She even set a broken arm on a train. All the while she prepared meals that defy description on a wood stove. She held contempt for bought bread. These were the values that shaped a young boy: hard work, discipline, and an unshakable sense of integrity. Yet, growing up Irish Catholic in a predominantly Protestant America meant navigating a landscape riddled with prejudice. The vitriol of the 1928 presidential election was a stark reminder of the times. The chilling sight of a Ku Klux Klan cross burning in their front yard was not an abstract threat. It was a stark reality. Accused by schoolmates with the dismissive, "The Catholic kid did it," he learned early to fight for his place. He learned to adapt to new environments. He learned to find allies where he could, like the fair-minded teacher, Miss Harris. This persistent adversity included the daily dedication of commuting to Bellarmine High School. His classmates often rowed across harbours. This forged a unique Bellarmine spirit. It was a bond of shared struggle and loyalty. He felt it transcended mere sportsmanship. His academic and athletic achievements culminated in the Loyalty Award at graduation. He subsequently attended Gonzaga University. These achievements spoke to a drive that refused to be diminished by hardship. As the Great Depression tightened its grip on the nation, widespread unemployment and despair cast a long shadow. For many, including the author, the military offered more than just a paycheck. It offered a rare promise of stability and purpose. The world watched as President Roosevelt signaled America's intent to aid England against Germany. Japan's aggressive expansion in the Pacific made war an ominous certainty. The drums of conflict beat louder. Military readiness became a national imperative. It was against this backdrop that the author enlisted in the Army. He was assigned to the 14th Coast Artillery Regiment at Fort Worden, Washington. In an era when soldiers were often viewed with disdain by civilians, the military offered a structured world. Humiliating "no dogs or soldiers" signs were common. For the author, military life was a significant step up from his civilian existence. Despite the meager $21 monthly pay, whittled down by deductions, he found a profound sense of belonging. The icing on the cake was I liked what I was doing, he later reflected. He appreciated the indoor plumbing and heated quarters. He also appreciated the superfood prepared by Sergeant Clyde Dice. Dice was rumoured to be a chef from Portland's finest hotel. The disciplined routine began with the regimental band's reveille. It included grueling Wednesday hikes with 25 to 30 pounds of gear. That gear somehow got even heavier as the day wore on. Yet, this routine was tempered by moments of soaring spirit. The band would meet them, playing stirring marches. These marches made them feel invincible. On Friday afternoons, the retreat parade evoked a deep, visceral patriotism. Standing at present arms to the colours, tears would often well in his eyes during the national anthem. It was a moment of peak national pride and personal commitment. His prior ROTC experience made him appear super smart during basic training. He quickly rose to private first class after learning to type. A fascination with explosives and ammunition led him to re-enlist. This eventually earned him a promotion to sergeant. Then, on December 7, 1941, the world irrevocably changed. He was enjoying a rare liberty in San Diego. The loudspeakers at Balboa Stadium crackled with an urgent command. All military personnel must return to their duty stations. The Japanese had just attacked Pearl Harbor. In that instant, the trajectory of his life shifted dramatically. The perception of every soldier shifted as well. What had been a path to steady employment and purpose now became a front-row seat to the brutal realities of global war. This set him on a course for officer candidate school. It was a future he could never have foreseen. The seismic shift of Pearl Harbor had reshaped a nation's resolve. It also reshaped the trajectory of individual lives. Soldiers, once dismissed as a lower species, now found unexpected elevation to hero status. This happened even as the initial military response stumbled through disorganization. Amidst this chaos, the call for specialized skills offered a unique path. For the young officer voluntarily presenting for bomb disposal school was more than an assignment. It was a conscious embrace of peril. It was a deliberate step into a role deemed the elite of the Army of the United States. This was an audacious gamble. It was a clear upward trajectory for a man who had already climbed from enlisted ranks to officer status. He was now choosing a path where danger was a constant companion. But so too was an unparalleled sense of purpose and distinction. Having embraced this perilous, specialized path, the young officer found himself on a ship bound for England. This was in the summer of 1943. He was transitioning from the theoretical dangers of training to the very real operational theatre. But beyond the German threat, a different kind of conflict emerged. It was a clash of cultures. The myth of seamless Allied cooperation, so often touted in propaganda, quickly fractured on the ground. American GIs, accustomed to a different way of life, encountered a British society. It was steeped in ancient traditions and rigid social codes. An undeniable sense of cultural superiority radiated from their English counterparts. This subtle condescension grated on American sensibilities. For the Anglo-American mind, as some observed, the differences were often a source of profound mystification. This created a persistent undercurrent of friction and resentment among the American ranks. This period forced a re-evaluation of national identity. It subtly challenged the widely held belief in a perfectly unified Allied front. This immersion in the harsh realities of war stripped away the last vestiges of pre-war innocence. It replaced a simplistic good guys versus bad guys worldview with a profound patriotism. It was a more jaded patriotism, but with an unshakable sense of duty. Within the tight-knit circle of bomb disposal officers, a unique camaraderie blossomed. It was forged in the crucible of shared existential danger. This was an unspoken understanding that only those who stared death in the face daily could truly comprehend. It was a bond that transcended rank and background. It was rooted in mutual reliance and a quiet, almost defiant pride. This environment also bred unconventional coping mechanisms. These were often born from the peculiar blend of fear and superstition that war engenders. A bizarre incident involving discarded fruit, for example, highlighted the cultural chasm between allies. It also showed the strange, often illogical lengths to which individuals would go. They sought a perceived advantage or a moment of respite from pervasive fear. It was a stark reminder that in the face of death, fear often trumped reason. This led to solutions that were as ingenious as they were absurd. The innocent pre-war generation's view of the conflict as a simple moral struggle had given way. It was replaced by the complex, often contradictory, experiences of men at war. D-Day had arrived. With it came the brutal reality of the war Captain Carter had anticipated. The internal conflict between hero and coward he had felt before the invasion now dissolved. It dissolved into the immediate visceral demands of survival. His company's chaotic landing on the Normandy beaches was merely the prelude. It was a prelude to weeks of grinding hardship in the field. This was marked by bone-chilling cold and the pervasive filth that clung to them like a second skin. Normandy was a landscape littered with the detritus of war. It was an endless, dangerous puzzle of unexploded ordnance. This ordnance was left by both retreating Germans and Allied air power. Amidst this grim, dangerous work, a surprising pocket of Irish camaraderie offered a brief respite. It was a familiar respite in a foreign land. Yet, the perceived fearlessness of bomb disposal officers was, for Carter, a dangerous misconception. He knew his own bravery was less about an absence of fear. It was more about an unshakable certainty of survival. This was a truth he acknowledged. Others, like the Air Corps Major at Chantilly, clung to the bomb disposal myth. This was the perilous belief that safety was guaranteed in the immediate presence of a bomb disposal expert. Such myths, Carter understood, were born of desperation, but they could prove fatally misleading. The relentless work continued, evolving with the enemy's tactics. The hunt for the first intact V-1 flying bomb was a frantic race for intelligence. It had culminated in his unit's success. This provided the Allies with crucial insight into this terrifying new weapon. Soon after, the 10th Ordnance Bomb Disposal Company found itself plunged into the heart of the V-1 onslaught. This was at Antwerp ex-command. It was a new crucible of constant danger and relentless duty. The sky there was perpetually alight with the fiery trails of incoming rockets. Then came the Ardennes offensive. It was a brutal German counterpunch that ripped through supply lines. It brought the war's sharpest edge to even rear echelon commands. It was in this bitter cold, amidst the chaos of redeployments, that Captain Carter faced his deepest personal loss. It was the death of Captain Collins. Collins was his closest friend and the finest mine man in the whole damned theatre. A momentary lapse, a cruel twist of fate, and a future robbed of all tomorrows. In the face of such grim realities, the disconnect between those on the front lines and the distant world of high command became increasingly stark for a fate between the enthusiast world. This world was often theoretical. Solutions proposed by scientists, far from the mud and the blood, sometimes felt utterly detached from the practicalities of combat. Ideas, like the suggestion of using liquid nitrogen to freeze bomb fuses, were perhaps sound in a laboratory, but they were met with a weary cynicism by men on the ground. These men knew such sophisticated tools simply did not exist, nor could they be practically applied in the freezing, chaotic conditions of a battlefield. The urgency of intelligence on new weapons like the V-1 had bred an expectation of rapid, flawless scientific solutions. But the reality was often far messier. It required improvisation and sheer grit over elegant theory. This chasm extended beyond technical solutions. It was a profound cultural divide. Frontline troops like Carter's men endured weeks of mud, dirt, and grime. They battled not just the enemy, but the bone-chilling cold and the relentless monotony of K-rations. Meanwhile, reports from certain headquarters units painted a picture of relative luxury. Country club conditions with regular showers, well-appointed messes, and comfortable quarters fostered deep resentment. This was among those who lived in constant discomfort and danger. It was not just about amenities. It was about a perceived lack of shared hardship. This was a profound psychological rift that deepened the burden of those facing the enemy head-on. The war, for some, was a daily fight for survival. For others, it was a distant management problem. This perception fueled a quiet, bitter anger among the men who truly carried the weight of the conflict. The war in Europe had ended in a chaotic, celebratory cacophony. But for Captain Daniel R. Carter, commander of all bomb disposal units awaiting Pacific deployment, the cessation of hostilities brought no relief. Instead, it brought a profound sense of anticlimax. The Pacific deployment never materialized. He found himself marooned in the vast, unstimulating landscape of Kansas. This was a place that would, as he observed, swelter in the summer and shiver in the winter. Its provincial towns and the immature women at Kansas State University offered little. They could not quell the gnawing restlessness of a man accustomed to life on the knife edge. The transition from the relentless high-stakes dance with death to the stultifying routine of post-war garrison duty left him climbing the walls with boredom. His post-war role as commandant of an occupied German village already signaled his inability to conform. He quietly defied non-fraternization policies to feed starving children. This was a human kindness he considered what any Irishman would do. This spirit of calculated rebellion, a counterpoint to harsh occupation policies, would not remain dormant for long. The monotony of garrison life reached its breaking point. This happened during an assignment to destroy obsolete smoke ordnance at Fort Riley. The captain, ever the strategist, had meticulously planned the operation. He even playfully manipulated a weather officer to ensure the perfect wind conditions. The resulting enveloping cloud of smoke was a deliberate act of defiance against the mundane. It had engulfed the fort in a thick, impenetrable haze. This brought all activity to a standstill. Though he feigned ignorance to a knowing Colonel Snavely, the incident was a stark demonstration. It showed Carter's calculated risk-taking. It showed his inherent need to challenge the status quo, even in the absence of an enemy. This simmering discontent was abruptly interrupted in 1946. An urgent summons called him to Fort Benning for a critical, high-stakes investigation. He was flown there on a C-47 Goonie bird. It was a stark, utilitarian flight that underscored the gravity of his mission. His new quarters were a poverty-level bachelor officer's quarters. It had shared facilities and a field mess. These were a stark contrast to the relative comfort some headquarters staff had enjoyed even during the war. This emphasized the seriousness and no-frills nature of the task ahead. The investigation centered on a tragic incident. Civilian deaths occurred during Operation Combine I. This was a firepower demonstration where the Air Corps had failed to properly arm 23-pound parafragmentation bombs. These bombs were designed to arm in flight and break into lethal fragments upon detonation. They had instead impacted inert. Yet, they remained a deadly latent threat across a wide area. Despite the incident being an Air Corps matter, the commanding general of Fort Benning, an Army officer, had shrewdly insisted on the inclusion of a qualified bomb disposal officer on the investigating board. This made Carter uniquely essential. He was a lone Army voice in a room dominated by Air Corps personnel. The atmosphere in the Board of Inquiry sessions was thick with tension. Palpable fear radiated from the Air Corps officers present. The armament officer of the bomb group, visibly shaken, testified that the impact area had been thoroughly cleared. But Carter, seasoned by years of diffusing enemy ordnance, harbored deep doubts. He possessed an innate skepticism for official pronouncements. He found himself an outsider. His expertise and direct experience clashed with the carefully constructed narrative of a cleared zone. With a junior rank but an unwavering conviction, he confronted the board president. His voice cut through the polite pretense. "The Air Corps is in a bad spot now," he said. "But what will it be like when some more civilians find the remaining bombs and get killed?" It was a blunt warning. It was a refusal to let an uncomfortable truth be swept under the rug. And it slowly began to shift the balance of the inquiry. The board's initial skepticism was born of internal politics. It was also a reluctance to accept an uncomfortable truth. This skepticism slowly yielded to Carter's persistent investigation. As dusk began to bleed across the sky, painting the impact area in shades of purple and grey, Carter's suspicions were chillingly confirmed. There, amidst the churned earth, he found them. The unexploded bombs were silent, deadly proof of the Air Corps' catastrophic failure. It was a moment of profound, solitary validation. It was a confirmation of his expertise. It confirmed his refusal to be swayed by official assurances. The adjutant reported his findings. The following morning, with methodical precision born of countless wartime operations, Carter personally and bravely destroyed the remaining ordnance. This act of expertise not only resolved a military crisis, it also served as a critical turning point for the board. It replaced their initial suspicion with a grudging, undeniable respect for the young captain. The Fort Benning incident, far from being a mere post-war assignment, became a crucible that forged Carter's future. His crucial role in the investigation led directly to his selection for advanced training in nuclear weapons control. This was a trajectory-altering path that would define the rest of his career. It culminated in his acceptance of a regular commission in the U.S. Air Force in 1947. Yet, amidst these professional challenges and advancements, Fort Benning offered an unexpected and far more profound personal fulfillment. It was in the A3 Operations Office, amidst the somber proceedings of the investigation, that he first encountered her. She was a cute little brunette. What began as a strategic pursuit, a convenient excuse to frequent her office, soon blossomed into a genuine courtship. This happened at the Officers' Club Annex. This courtship, nurtured amidst the echoes of war and the promise of a new peace, would lead to a lifelong marriage. It brought a profound personal happiness that balanced the rigors of his professional life. It was a testament to the unexpected turns of life. It suggests that even in the most seemingly routine assignments, opportunities for significant contributions and personal growth can arise. These can shape not just a career, but an entire destiny.